Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the Love is Blind podcast.
Welcome, welcome. I am Andre.
And I am Alli. And we are guiding you through season 5 of this, I don't know what adjective to use, but it's all of the feels TV show.
Train wreck?
Yeah,
currently?
Well, yeah, kind of currently, yeah. So we are now updating you on episode 6. Episode 6 is titled
Going Home.
And the description is...
What was meant to be a dreamy vacation might be a deal-breaking disaster for one couple. In Houston, meetings with family and friends raise questions.
All right, before we dive in scene by scene, thoughts on the episode overall?
I mean, we were kind of seeing this going in this direction. I didn't quite think that Taylor was going to make that strong of a move, but I guess it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the title isn't really, it's not really hiding much, is it? Because if you see Going Home, it's not, especially with the little screenshot of JP and Taylor arguing.
Right.
It's not as though you're wondering, I wonder who's going home.
Well, who could this be? Although, you know, none of the couples seem rock solid, so
Yeah.
It really kind of could be anybody, but yeah.
And I'm sure that they thought that all of us would see Going Home and they're like, oh, their honeymoon is over, so they're
Right.
going home. But we know better than this. We know this drama-filled show is
Yeah.
into having people go home.
I don't, apparently this season is not great. Coming off the high of season 4, where I feel like the show was kind of redeemed from the terrible season 3.
And I mean, for me, coming from the last season of Love is Blind Brazil,
oh yeah,
which was wow, you know, like you see the amount of couples that they get and the longevity of their couples, you know, spoilers, I guess, but yeah, it is quite a drastic difference to be in the honeymoon with 3 couples, one of these couples is not getting along, one of them we're maybe iffy on. Yeah. And then there's Izzy and Stacy, right, who are just happily just shitting around each other.
Doing their thing. Yeah.
Just having a great time.
Yeah, I mean, it is... I feel for the producers because the couple count is low.
Count is low.
It makes me feel, especially when we get to the end of the episode and there's that meeting with Uche and Leah, it makes me feel more so like they're going to get those 2 back together, and I hate that news.
Right.
But yeah, really low couple count, and the couples that are there, I'm not heavily invested in, so... Right. I don't know, Houston.
Yeah.
Houston, we have a problem.
And Houston, we do have a problem. And is Uche and Aaliyah in this one, or are we spoiling the next episode already?
No, we haven't seen the next episode, so we can't be spoiling.
We can't. Well, we kind of started a little bit, but it's fine.
Just a little teaser.
Just a little teaser.
I don't think we started it. Anyway, that's for us to find out.
And for you to listen to.
Returning back to the show, we begin with Stacy and Izzy blissed out in bed.
Just talking about their condoms and the smell. They keep referring to the smells in the room between their armpits and other things. They keep talking about, you know, we had the broken toilet previously. There was the episode when they're leaving. They're finally they're talking about like smelly clothes. I guess they're a very olfactory couple.
Yeah, I guess so. Right? Yeah, they're in their primal states, I guess. She's clogging up the toilet. They're stinking it up. They're just having a bunch of sex with Note the Drop to Magnum condoms.
Okay, we get it, Izzy. You have a big dick. We get it.
We get it, Stacy. You're disgusting, and Izzy, you have a big dick. All right, understood. Okay. Also, but to me, that's sort of like maybe that's sincere from Stacy. Maybe it's also like I'm just like a relatable hot chick, you know.
I think they're weirdly really cute. So yeah. I'm into their energy.
Yeah, I do wonder. There was in the pods that one scene where Izzy was wanting Stacy to be more vulnerable, and they had that awkwardness, and maybe that is turning out to be nothing. But I do wonder if that will come back after the honeymoon period is over, quite literally.
Right.
But perfect couple to Taylor and JP, who continue to be bored AF with each other.
Yeah, we just cut to Taylor and JP for 3 seconds where Taylor goes, I'm not talking, you can talk. And then we're like, all right, I guess that's all we have from then. We're going to go
Let's
on to
sum that up. Off to Lydia. And if you forgot that scene, it's because it was about 2 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then we jump over to Lydia and Milton deciding what to wear. Lydia wants to match. Milton doesn't want to match.
Yeah. This is... Look, I for one am totally cool with somebody saying like I'd like to match with you. Can you wear this? And taking it into consideration a little bit. He just never. He's just gonna like, nope, not gonna do it.
Gonna be a
don't
thing.
don't. I don't care. I don't care what you think.
Person.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know.
I mean, this doesn't seem like a real fight to me. It's a
not
little bit of like, Lydia doing a little bit of a bid for connection and Milton kind of shutting it down, but it doesn't seem...
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like either one of them is really that upset about it. It's more just like this kind of sucks, but that's it, And they seem to, on the whole, be getting along pretty well.
Yeah, and we do see another scene of Milton throwing Lydia into something. In this case, the bed. As in the previous episode, he slams her into the pool.
Yeah, yeah. Then we return to
JP and Taylor, who are doing a little, off-roading ATV action, which seems to, at least briefly bring them together, which I guess, the moment you have something else to focus on and not the relationship, there's that.
Totally.
But, of course, the moment you get to conversation and...
It's back to awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is very quiet, and she is really fixated on that. You know? I mean, I don't think she's helping the situation by like now she's in a ruminative cycle about it. Like he won't talk, and so he's feeling more like, okay, I don't like this energy, I'm gonna shut down more. And she's, it's just again that pursue a distancer. We know it so well. It's more, which one are you? But yeah, it's becoming quite a dynamic. I think if she could just take some space or something, it might be helpful. But at the same time, I understand that you have basically 20 minutes to get to know this person before you're going to marry them.
Yeah.
So I understand not wanting to take space and figure that out, but I do think that would have been helpful for them.
And we do get a sort of early version of this sort of, I guess, reasoning that JP is later going to use, where he's like, you should show your freckles more. He starts to kind of talk to her about her looks, which, I have lots to say about that once we get to it. But
you had some good commentary on that.
But right now, one thing to note is when Taylor asks JP, like, how are you feeling? And he answers sweaty. That to me is the epitome of the kinds of conversation they're having, where he's refusing to actually say how he's feeling internally, and instead he's just kind of like, I feel fine, I feel hot, I'm sweaty, I'm cold.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, JP would drive me crazy, but like, I don't think I would have gone for JP in the first place, so I don't know. I mean, I can't put myself in Taylor's shoes, really.
Yeah, but there's we're seeing more and more cracks forming in them.
I mean, Taylor's kind of like a boisterous, like 25-year-old. Like, I just, there's been scenes of her back in their lodgings or whatever that are not really lodgings, where she's just like playing around and she's kind of playful and loose, and JP's not. And it's showing. I mean,
look, as Stacey said, JP is a good old boy.
Yeah.
And I think he's just maybe a little bit, I mean, weirdly, I was going to say more conservative, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I feel like on paper these two should have gotten along, and I think most people thought that they would get along based on their interaction in the pods.
Yes, and the way they're presented episodes 1 to 4. But again, it's like a 180 between episodes 4 and 5.
So thank you,
on
editors.
These couples. I feel I can't trust anything on this show.
And we then move on to Stacey and Izzy. They're about to go mini golfing, and we get
Stacey's wearing some very loud pants. Yeah. But I'm oddly into them too, you know? Girl's got good fashion.
Yeah, she does. And we definitely get, I think this may be the first time she begins referring to Izzy as daddy, which she does maybe like 3 or 4 times throughout this episode. So we're certainly getting a glimpse into their bedroom time.
Attention peaked. Yeah, I mean, I wonder though, they clearly have a good sexual dynamic, and I wonder how much that is making that challenge with being vulnerable and open with each other not so present. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be, I mean, that's the kind of thing that probably is going to maybe cause issues for them later down in the relationship. The fact that they haven't been able to do a whole lot of vulnerable opening to each other. But because Stacey always seemed to be focusing on adventure and fun
and sex and yeah. She's not comfortable with being seen.
Yeah.
You know, she's got a very good, you know, fun girl facade that she's really leaning heavily into. And I wonder how that will shake out, you know?
Yeah. Also, okay, can we talk for real about just sweating? Because I'm a sweaty guy. There's no hiding that. There's really just no way to hide that. And it seems to be, this happens in every single season, constantly happening, that the guys are always sweaty and the women are always like, you're so sweaty, and the guys are like, yeah, because it's hot.
See,
is this a thing? Are guys just constantly really very sweaty?
Maybe. I mean, you really notice your own sweatiness. So it's funny to me that like we're both really oriented towards the things that are important to us. I'm like, check out those pants, and what about those clear shoes? Because I like fashion. And you're like, sweaty guys, man. Everybody's paying attention to this, and I'm like, I have no recollection of them talking about being sweaty until this moment right now.
Commenting on it constantly, like when they meet together, every time they do like the big reveal,
they're wearing clothes constantly.
Okay, all right. Well, when they first do the reveals, the guys are always sweating, and the women are always kind of like, well, you're so sweaty, and they're like, yeah, I'm real nervous, or like, yeah, I'm wearing a suit, and it's like Hawaii. Whatever the fuck. Yeah, it's just funny. It doesn't really register for me. But anyway, they have their, you know, very sexually charged conversation mini golfing. Then we move back over to Lydia and Milton, who are having a nice meal, seeming happy, a little bit of tension coming through, of just like nothing big, nothing you could really put your finger on, but these little like nips here and there, you know? And then also some good stuff, like them talking about their education, but there's a little bit of like a challenge dynamic for me. There is a little bit of there's a little bit of a challenge, and Milton kind of like is getting into like ribbing Lydia a little bit, which like to a certain extent I get, you know, it's one thing to be doing that like from time to time to be cute, but he just like doesn't back down. Like she'll be like, I'm hilarious, and he's like, no, you're not. And she's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, no, you're not. Yeah, as opposed to then going, yeah, you're pretty funny. Right.
Yeah. Which would feel better. I think that all feels better. I wonder if he's feeling insecure because she's so conscious of the age thing that he has to be ribbing her to kind of be asserting himself.
Yeah, very possibly.
Again, he's 24. So then we cut back to.
Well, we have a brief scene. We have a brief scene of Stacey and Izzy just like getting down.
Yeah. All right. We get it. You guys have great sex. Okay,
we get it. And then we get to the meat of.
Speaking of great sex, or more likely the opposite.
We get to JP and Taylor having, you know, I think this is the defining conversation right here.
Oh, yes. This conversation, which, to recap for the listeners, this is the conversation where Taylor is like, what happened? You and I were totally good, and then you saw me and things have been different. And JP is really, you know, doesn't say anything, tries to put it on her. You're making it awkward. And then he just sort of comes out and says, you had too much makeup on. You looked fake. Yeah. And Taylor's like, you can go F yourself. All right.
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
I mean, my thoughts. I think, look, I've not been shy about saying that I don't think JP has great emotional intelligence. And I think that part of that just comes down from the fact that he doesn't seem to be able to express how he's feeling on a routine basis, right? Mm-hmm. So we get a number of different sets, scenes in the past where Taylor's asking him how he's feeling, and he's just not able to really communicate that beyond that I'm fine, or this is awkward, or, and he seems to have done the bare minimum level of work in terms of trying to figure out what's going on by just essentially kind of thinking back to like when I first saw her and when things got awkward, and latching on to one thing and then naming that thing as the reason for why he's being awkward and distant. Mm-hmm. So he latches onto the fact that she had too much makeup on, mm-hmm. which I think might have been a thing he noticed. It might have been a thing that maybe even bothered him for some reason. There are many, many other ways that this could have gone. But the problem is that he says, you had too much makeup on, therefore I became distant and awkward towards you. And I don't think that those things are related. I think they happen to have happened maybe at the same time. I think maybe he didn't feel as instantly attracted to her. Maybe he has a hard time, making the transition from speaking to somebody he's not seeing to somebody who he is seeing, and being emotionally vulnerable in the way that he was when he felt like he was alone in a room talking to a disembodied voice. Mm-hmm. But I think the fact that he's distant has nothing to do mm-hmm. with how much makeup she was wearing or any of those things. I think those two things just happened to happen at the same time, and his analysis of the situation was, okay, these two things happened at the same time, therefore one must have caused the other. Mm-hmm. And I think he's missing the point. He's not only that, but he's then like digging into her about this thing in a way that's like aggressive and mean. Mm-hmm. And it like he's kind of like harping on it because he's like he's now naming it as the reason mm-hmm. for the breakdown of their relationship. So he's emotionally investing a lot of importance into that decision of hers to wear makeup, right? Which is wild. I mean, first of all, it's crazy to comment on somebody's look in that way and blame it for the breakdown of a relationship in the way that he does, but the aggressiveness to do it with somebody that you've just met essentially just days earlier, mm-hmm. to me is, he needs some therapy is really what it comes down to.
Get thee to a therapist.
Get thee to a therapist, JP.
Yeah, you had a way of summarizing it when we were watching that was, this is a man with low EQ desperately trying to figure out what his emotions mean.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good take on it. I think he does double down in the conversation because it's like a self-righteous feeling that's coming mm-hmm. over him where mm-hmm. he's like, this isn't my fault, this is something you did, and that feels we all know that blame feels better than accountability, and so it's very, very much easier for him to be putting it on her and then being like, and then trying to say like, well, you shouldn't be upset because I like you more without makeup. Most women would love to hear that. Totally ignoring the fact that he just criticized her and shamed her and said something that makes no sense whatsoever, and is not being at all accountable for the fact that he completely shut down. I mean, right, like, in couples counseling, they always talk about, like, it's not about the dishes, really. It's about, like, the emotions surrounding the dishes. Mm-hmm. It's not about the makeup. It's about everything else that's surrounding this dynamic. And the makeup is a neutral enough thing that he can land on it, at least in his mind. For her, she's already pretty done with him. And she's, like, I think she's kind of hearing it as maybe it really is the makeup and if this is the makeup, this is overly punitive and bananas, which is absolutely accurate.
Yeah, I mean, so she does at one point, because she steps away and then comes back to bed and makes kind of an overture to be like, okay, we had a real connection. I want to make like work through this, and he's just kind of like, nope, this is the one thing. This is about the amount of work that I'm willing to do to figure out what's going on.
Right.
And I've decided that it's your makeup. And, she makes a good point, which is like, so you saw me in makeup and that made you forget how to communicate? Like, it's a wild take. Right. And especially since she points out at one point, she's like, I haven't even worn much makeup since we came on this honeymoon. So if that was a thing, then that should have stopped being a thing.
Yeah, we're looking at a man who's completely shut down.
Yeah.
And again, right? How could we expect him to be any way else? He's never learned that that's like a thing that's okay to be. So again, seems like a good guy, probably very loyal, probably very dedicated to the people that are close in his life, but just needs to work on himself, and if he did, it'd be great. But Taylor leaves.
We they get a little hug. I was commenting on the fact that JP seems to, especially when around Taylor, but I'm guessing it's around everybody, always kind of has this like constant little smile on his face, which I think is a little bit of a defense mechanism to be like, I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm being friendly, I'm just being friendly, I'm not upset, you're upset. But then the moment that Taylor leaves, for the first time ever, you kind of see that drop, and he's like sitting in bed, and he's just serious face for the first time, and he's like, good. Yeah, not kind of like finally some stuff sinking into him. I wouldn't be surprised, if I'm honest, if at some point in the future, probably past some therapy or at least some helpful conversations with people that he knows, I'm hoping that he's going to realize that he kind of fucked up here.
Maybe. Yeah.
One can only hope.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think he feels great, even right now.
Yeah.
But she leaves, making me wonder, like, do they have extra rooms for them?
I mean, I'm sure that the production staff can just be like, oh yeah, we'll
get you a room,
out. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. But here we go, back to Stacy and Izzy continuing to be fun and sexy, and oh my gosh, we're so smelly.
We're so smelly. You have to do all this laundry when you get home, because
super NRE vibes over at Stacy and his town. And yeah, more talking about being smelly. We're just like, I don't know. I feel like I've been there where it's sort of like, oh, we're sort of leaning into how comfortable and gross we are around each other. It's so playful. But it's different from like actual vulnerability. Yeah. Shoot back to Lydia and Milton, who are just continuing to have that dynamic of age, which, man, I really hope that the editors chose all of the age scenes and put them into this show to form a story. If it was really like days and days of just talking about their age dynamic,
just constantly,
that would be so boring.
It is something to keep in mind, is the fact that they have hours and hours and hours of footage for every single one of these couples, and they're very specifically choosing scenes that are trying to give a particular narrative, right? So the fact that they're choosing to talk about, show things where they're talking about their age, could be obviously an indication of the fact that they're talking about it a lot, or the fact that they're trying to like point out like, this is the thing that's going wrong, or this is the thing that's kind of coming between them, or this is the difficulty that they're having. Anyway,
they talk about that. Then we come to JP and Taylor the morning after, where JP's like, I want to make it work, and Taylor's like, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah. And she
looks mad.
She is done. And it's interesting because JP kind of comes in being like, I want to make it work, but he has no ideas about how to make it work.
Right. He just wants to get back to it being good. Can we just be okay again?
Yeah. And I think he thinks he's doing this great thing by kind of like asking her questions at the end, which is like, okay, can you talk again? But she seems to like mishear him like 2 or 3 times because he keeps having to repeat it. And I think that really what's happening is that in her head, she's just kind of going over the thing that she's about to say, which is, I'm ending this.
Yeah.
So I think she was just kind of waiting for him to stop speaking to a certain extent so that she can just say the thing that she came there to say. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think that she's probably like nervous and like wanting to like, you know, do the thing that she's like decided. Mm-hmm. And
what did you think of her decision?
I mean, look, based on how he's been acting, good on her. Like, certainly not. This is certainly not the dynamic that you want a few weeks before you're getting married to somebody.
Right.
Is a dynamic that seems to have no break in sight. So it's, you know, it's one thing to have like a shift in the energy between a couple. It's one thing to go through difficulties and then like work through them, but this one doesn't, like, I don't see anything coming from JP that would give me an idea of like, oh yeah, they're going to work this out. This is going to get better, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I completely agree with everything that you were saying. I think it is the right call. I was impressed that she made the call. Like, I don't think that she would be getting married for sure, but I was also thinking, just for the sake of continuing on the show, that she wouldn't be doing that. And also the fact that there's so few couples, it made me think that the producers would have been saying you should not break up with him. So
sure,
even with that stress and pressure, I feel like it showed a lot of character for her and integrity, that she's like, no, I deserve more than this, you know? Because there's a lot of external pressure that you're on this show to get married. Probably a certain amount of embarrassment if it doesn't work out. You're on TV. So props to you, Taylor. He's not the one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
or the multiple ones if you don't subscribe to the one, but he's not someone you should be marrying.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that she says that hit me the hardest was that she just feels uncomfortable around him. And I was like, that can't be someone that you are deciding you're going to like spend the rest of your life with if you're uncomfortable being together.
Right.
That sounds hard.
Yeah, it does sound hard.
It certainly doesn't sound like, you know, we're deeply in love and are committing to each other for the rest of our lives.
So that's it. Leaving us. I remember after we saw this, we were like, do we have just 2 couples left?
Yeah. And, yeah.
I've never seen that. It was just really not a lot of chemistry. And I got, you know...
Yeah.
I've heard that in some seasons they have too many couples to show. This season feels like not only was that not the case, but we're getting like the B-roll couples.
Yeah.
You know, couples that maybe they wouldn't have included on past seasons.
Yeah. Can I also, this is a complete side and not a useful commentary at all.
Well,
but
then please don't hesitate.
in this scene, whoever was like doing the set deck decided really actively that these two were going to, throughout this conversation, be incredibly hungry, because there's like a plate with so many slices of fruit.
Oh, that fruit plate looks really good though.
It looks fantastic, but they're just kind of like, can we get them like, can there be like 5 different fruit and like a lot of them, like a lot of it,
oh,
like
that tropical fruit. And I was eyeballing that fruit plate too. I would have rather married that fruit plate than JP.
Yeah, they have like they have some orange. Yeah, and I mean, I get, presumably it's just like, this is just breakfast, but I just thought it was like
shooting the closing scene is the ring right by the fruit.
Right by the fruit, like the camera just pans down. It's like, there's the ring, but oh, look at all the fruit.
It would only be better if he just goes and like picks up a piece of fruit right now. Like, oh, at least I have this. At least I have you.
At least I have you, guava.
Wait, or papaya. Oh, that tropical papaya. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, should we be going on Love Is Blind so we can get
some fruit?
Answer yes, but yeah, she leaves, and so we have these 2 remaining couples, and we then come to Vanessa and Nick talking about going back home. Which by the way, like, am I the only one that thinks that Vanessa and Nick maybe borderline hate each other.
Look, it's very unclear.
So tense between them all the time. Their body language is so stiff around each other.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're hosts. They're hosting. They're not there to be a couple. They're there to be hosting.
But Kleber and Camila from Love Is Blind Brazil, I like their chemistry.
They do have good chemistry.
Vanessa and Nick,
right.
I'm like, oh, I don't know about you guys. Yeah.
I do want to say one last thing about the Taylor and JP thing, which is that Taylor says, I could have spent all the rest of my life in the pods talking to JP, which is, what a wild comment. Yeah. What a wild thing to just be like, yeah, we were like in the pods, that would have been my husband right there.
I believe it. That's how a lot of,
Yeah. And
long distance relationships don't work when you're closer together. Like there's maybe not the exact same dynamic, but there's dynamics like that you see. We return to Stacy and Izzy, who are just being romantic and cutesy with each other. I mean, they do seem to have a genuine connection. My only concern about them is how deep is that connection and how much is that lack of depth not feeling as important as it will later become because they're distracted by what apparently is their fire sex.
Yeah. I like the fact that she says that she likes flowers, but that they shouldn't be very colorful. Which I was like, yeah, what a thing to think. You think flowers, you think not very colorful, right?
Yeah. Just like a white lily.
Just don't think about flowers as the very definition of bright colors in our world, but just...
But those neutral flowers.
Those neutral color flowers, those beige ones.
Yeah, all those beige. I can't think of a single beige flower. All right.
We
Coming
have
back to Milton and Lydia, which we're going to see a lot of them because, again, these are the only two couples left.
Mm-hmm. We have Milton who wants to eat while sitting on a counter, which you really saw yourself in.
Dynamic, which I love sitting on a counter. So they're just more of that nitpicking at each other that I have to say I called it. Mm-hmm. Back when they were in the pods, I was like, they're going to get together, but it will start to be these little jabs here and there. And they just lead to something. And like, girl, I am good. Like, I called this, okay?
Yeah. And then Milton kind of drops this bomb that he's going to be working nights for 4 nights a week, which is going to essentially mean that they don't see each other, which it's a huge bummer, especially in the context of this quote-unquote experiment. Because it's really going to make it so that they're not really spending that much time together. And I think the whole point here is that they're spending a lot of concentrated time together so that they can figure each other out faster,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
Lydia's bummed, but understanding, which, Again, Lydia completely different from the Lydia we saw episodes 1 through 4. Pretty calm and reasonable and relaxed and everything. Yeah. We're seeing a scene now between Izzy and Stacy.
Just, essentially kind of first expressing how their families are going to affect the way their relationship is kind of moving forward. Because they're talking about how they're, afraid that they're going to get their, Izzy's afraid that he's going to get, or I think it's his mom, is afraid that he's going to get his heart broken.
Yeah.
So we're seeing these early, like, we should probably have some vulnerable talks.
Totally. Yeah. I like that they had that conversation. Yeah. Because Izzy's got a lot of, I think he ultimately does want that. I mean, he did have that connection with Johnny. He's got that whole, Jehovah's Witness background.
Right.
Where he is feeling, it sounds like he felt like he had all of this feeling inside and know for it to go. So I think for him, for real, he does need to emotionally connect to somebody to be truly happy. But then we come back to Lydia and Milton.
Which, by the way, I'm now realizing this is going to be happening a lot, which is we're bouncing between these two couples because these are the two couples left. But we go to Milton's place, which is how much of a recently graduated, like, just boys' apartment with Playboys and stacks of ones for the strip club.
Which Milton is like, it is for the strip club.
It is for the strip club.
A dicey scene where Lydia is looking at his microscope and he's like, do not touch that. And she's sort of being playful.
Freaks out.
He's like, really do not touch that.
Also, he kind of like, in that moment, he kind of like treats her like she doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm like, hold on a second. You're both scientists. Like, you both have studied this. She probably knows how to use this. I get that you're like afraid that she's going to break a piece of equipment that's maybe not in its best form.
Afraid she was going to change the settings.
Yeah, but also that the microscope itself is old and kind of falling apart, and he's afraid that she's going to move a knob that normally is supposed to move one way, but she doesn't know that it's broken. And so it's a little weird tension about, hey, it's my stuff, don't touch my stuff. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, Lydia kind of pushes him on it, which I'm sure doesn't help, but at the end of the day she is respectful of, it could have been really bad if she was like, didn't playfully touch it. Yeah, that would have been really upsetting. And I mean, I'm just kind of, because it's just the two of these couples, I'm going to kind of just speed us along a little bit.
I mean, we do get the conversation about the rugs that she doesn't want, and she's like wants to give them immediately away to her Milton's friend, who, by the way, I think does a wonderful job talking about why he thinks Milton loves her. And just from Milton's reaction, I'm like, has Milton actually said these things to you, or are you being incredibly articulate in expressing something that Milton might have like half expressed to you? Because he's like, I think you're going to make Milton a better person and like help him, achieve things in life. And he's just kind of like, Milton's just kind of like nodding his head like, yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the roommate is pretty awesome. And ultimately saves the dynamic, because Lydia, throughout the whole apartment thing, is like, I'm trying to be cool with this, but holy shit, it's becoming more and more apparent to me how very young you truly are. And I'm like, I'm really, God, have I made the worst decision of my life? And then the roommate comes in, who's like, by the way, I love this roommate. I will hope he's on another season.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, Milton really is a good guy. He's really mature. He's really all of this stuff. And Lydia's like, you know what? Yeah, that's why I'm on a show that invites us to look beyond the surface, Right. Speaking of homecomings, we shoot over to, of course, Stacy and Izzy, the only other couple.
Where we're getting this early view of Izzy maybe kind of realizing that, well, I mean, Stacy looks like she's doing pretty well in terms of, money, and like her home is quite large, and she seems to be accustomed to a particular lifestyle, because he seems to be kind of noticing that, especially towards the end, kind of being like, oh, okay, well, this might not be the thing that I'm going to be able to like contribute to as much. But they're getting the tour. He's seeing all of her clothes, and we have a little bit of a money talk. A money talk where I think
really tough to talk about.
Yeah, but I think they also kind of talk over each other at one point, because I think she mentioned something like, I want you to pay for dinners all the time, and he's kind of like, oh, I thought it was going to be like 50-50. And I think that from her perspective, it was more like a gesture of like, I think she's, maybe wanting to fit more into those heteronormative roles of like the man pays for dinner type of a situation, and feeling that she's not like covering everything. But he takes it in a very strange way, and he's just kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that that's what you were looking for. And but yeah, money talk, which is, to be fair, good conversation to be having this early on, especially.
Props to them for having it. I mean, I think she seems to have come from money. Because what is she? She's an operations manager?
Operations manager.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like.
It depends on what the operations are.
I don't know.
We don't know.
She has a nice house and everything, but he's an insurance agent. I would have thought those would be comparable, I guess. But I don't know. I guess maybe insurance agent is on commission or something, and it's variable. But anyway, he seems to be having a tough time, or it could just be awkward to talk about money. I mean, a lot of us have questionable relationships with money, and there's so much shame and everything. Like, is he a man? Like, what, there's so much about money that's not about actual currency. Mm-hmm. And that is all coming up when they're talking about it. And yeah, it's, it's good for them to have the conversation. She wants a guy that she says isn't going to take advantage of her when it comes to money, which apparently is something that's happened before. So I get it. But the conversation goes not, wonderfully, but it's also not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's... I
think it goes about as well as an initial money conversation can go.
Yeah. And I think that by the end of it, they come to a little bit of a neutral ground as opposed to where they maybe started off.
Mm-hmm. But then the closer of the ep.
Yeah. The closer of the ep is Uche arriving to Aaliyah, waiting for him.
Yeah.
And to your point, I thought this was the beginning of the next episode, but this is how this episode kind of ends, with Aaliyah essentially saying, hey, I think I fucked up in leaving. Mm-hmm. And that she feels that she has this strong connection with Uche and doesn't really want anybody else. And Uche, I think, I'm not sure, obviously at the end of this episode, I don't think we're supposed to really know what's in Uche's heart, because he's just kind of like taking it all in and not really saying anything, just kind of like listening to this. And I think he's looking for maybe an apology. I don't know what he's looking for, but it's a tense situation that ends this episode, with the two of them just talking.
They're obviously going to get back together. I hate that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
There will be plenty to talk about, but yeah, she's once again in a position where she's begging for him, which is their dynamic very, very frequently.
Right.
She's always wrong. He's always right. She's small. He's big. People, this is toxic dynamic. If you know relationships like this, if you are in a relationship like this, look at it. This is not, there's no way it feels good to be Aaliyah in this relationship.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all of this editing, is that all we're seeing is what they've chosen to show us, right? So that's happened many times, if I'm honest, where you see a couple getting along and you're like, based on what I've seen, I don't know if you two should be getting along,
Yeah.
And we don't know what conversations have really brought them together. If it is just the conversations that we've seen, then that's not great. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So that brings us to the end of episode 6.
And we will check back in at episode 7, which I guess we have to watch, even though it's going to mean I see Uche and Aaliyah more. But, for you, our faithful listeners.
So faithful.
I would fly to the moon.
Yes.
I would, buy you a beige flower.
Yeah. Well, thanks for checking in, everyone. Follow us, rate us 5 stars, tell your friends about this. Sponsor us. And we'll be back with episode 7 soon.
All right.
Bye. Bye.